I'd like to introduce MECE Mindmaps. Now this is a combination of two things. First of all, mind maps, which I'm sure many of you know is a way to organize ideas, and MECE, which is a thinking technique. So let's get started. What's MECE? Well, it's a thinking technique that was used and pioneered and promoted by a management consultancy called McKinsey, and they're famous for helping large organizations and even governments think through complex problems. And it's probably easier to think of it in terms of the CE first, and that stands for collectively exhaustive. And then ME is the first bit, which is mutually exclusive. Now, it's maybe easier to think of those two concepts in a slightly simpler form, and I certainly use this simpler form when talking to children. And that is no overlaps and no gaps. So when you think about your mind map and each node on the mind map, you need to apply the tests. Have we got any gaps here? Are we missing anything? And then the second test, and this is really the powerful one, is do any of the nodes coming from, any of the branches coming from a node overlap with any other one? Now, by applying these two tests and reorganizing your mind map so that it is MECE, I think you'll find that this brings clarity of thought to any mind map. So let's have a look at a concrete example. Here I've created a mind map of my bucket list, and I've just got one main concept in the middle, and then I've got these branches coming out of the main concept. And you can see that I've got all sorts of things: learn Spanish, visit Rio de Janeiro, visit London, Santiago, write a bestseller, play the piano, charter a plane, all sorts of things. Now, the good thing about this is collectively exhaustive, or it would be if this was everything on my bucket list. But you can see that there isn't really clarity of thought here. I've got places, I've got skills, I've got things I'd like to do. The notice that South America I've got down here as a place to visit, and Santiago, well, Santiago is actually in South America, so there's overlap there. So how can I reorganize this to make it MECE? Well, I'm going to do that and then come back and talk about it. So I've now spent some time organizing that same list into a MECE structure. And before, it probably was collectively exhaustive, but there was overlap. And I think a good place to illustrate that overlap was the places that I'd set out to visit. I had South America in there. I had all of these cities to visit. So what I've done here is I've created a new section, places to visit. And then from that, there are actually two destinations in terms of continents, Europe and South America. And then in Europe, I have the three cities in Europe I'd like to visit, and in South America I have two cities. So now this is MECE, and the brain can now see how these are organized and see that there are two areas, Europe, South America, I'd like to see, and the cities in them. And then I've organized the others into things to do. So we now have charter a plane, write a bestseller, compete in a world chess championship. So those are the things I'd like to do, and then the skills, they're split into learn Spanish and play the piano. So now all of these nodes and the branches coming out of them are MECE. So I hope you found this interesting, and I hope that it's an interesting technique that you can apply to your mind maps to make them clearer and easier to understand.